Welcome to the Cup of Joe Show, where we explore the journey of recovery from alcohol and drug addiction, one story, one conversation, and one step at a time. I'm your host, Joe, creating a safe space for honest discussions about the challenges and triumphs of addiction and alcoholism. In each episode, we'll hear inspiring stories and uncover tools that make healing possible. Sobriety is not a one-size-fits-all journey, and you don't have to face it alone. Recovery is possible, and it's worth it. Thank you for joining the Cup of Joe Show. Now let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cup of Joe Show. I'm your host, of course, Joe, and I just want you to know if you are out there struggling right now, please reach out for help. You don't have to suffer in silence. I'm really excited about today's guest. It's Genevieve H, sober since February 26, 2008, a mother of three, a grandmother of three, and a woman who lives by a simple but powerful principle: recovery first, everything else second. After building a life grounded in that mindset, Genevieve has found a way to stay active, engaged, and fully present, whether she's traveling, gardening, hiking, or just showing up for life. And through it all, one of her most important tools has been learning how to pause, something that's changed the way she responds to life on life's terms. I can't wait to learn more of her story, so grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get into it. Hey, Genevieve, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for your willingness to come on and share your story.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So what was it like growing up, Genevieve?
Oh, wow. So it was like a battlefield. It was a strange experience. I had alcoholic, drug addict parents and wonderful Catholic, God-fearing grandparents who co-parented. And so we would go to church on Sunday. My brother and I would go to church on Sunday with my grandparents and go home to my parents, and chaos ensued. And so all along, as we were being taught about the Catholic God, we'd go home and wonder where God was. Lots of strange events, to say the least, strange events.
So that must have been kind of, it's almost like you maybe had some sense of normalcy and then you'd go back into chaos. Was it just chaos? Yeah.
Well, it did feel like a sense of normalcy when I was with my grandparents, and then when I was home, it was pure chaos, and it gave me an understanding that it wasn't normal, but I didn't know what normal meant then, because growing up, I wanted to be with my parents. I wanted to be at home with them. I think that most children do have that natural desire to be with their parents. And in one instance, you're being loved and coddled, and then the next, it's chaos and food flying and cops showing up and drug bust and people going to jail and child abuse. And, and then you go to church on Sunday and all is forgiven. So there was this weird connotation in my life that as long as you were making amends, if you will, or, going to church and telling the priest all the bad, but you couldn't tell the priest. You couldn't tell the priest anything, right? So there was this weird, I was taught to lie at a very young age. That's what it was. At the end of the day, I was taught to lie. I was taught to not be who I was. Lie, cheat, and steal at all cost. You can't tell the grandparents what's going on at home, and you can't tell the parents what's going on at church. Very confusing, very confusing. And at a very young age, I knew at 5 years old, something wasn't right. I just didn't know what was right.
Yeah. And we have that instinct, I think that we kind of know, like you said, you kind of knew something wasn't right. You just couldn't quite put your finger on what it was. I grew up raised Catholic, as I say, and I had a real love-hate relationship with God. Through the it was I was always told I was going to be punished. God's going to punish you if you act out, and then it was like, but God loves you, and it's like, what? Is he going to punish me or does he love me? What is it? I don't know. But we're it's very confusing, and it sounds like you had a really challenging childhood.
Well,
You know,
and one of the things that became even more challenging was being abused as a child and trying to understand when a family member who's an adult tells you they love you and then they do things that are inappropriate and you're told not to tell, and nobody really gives you this guidance of what's appropriate and not appropriate in a real understanding. Like a 5-year-old has no clue. They just know something's not right. And you did refer to that internal mechanism that we all have, but mine's wrong all the time, because if I tell that adult gets in trouble and then I get in trouble for getting that adult in trouble, and then you go to church and am I dirty or is he dirty, or is who do I trust? There's no one in the room that I can trust. And then you grow up as an adult and you find out all these priests are doing dirty things. And so I've had this weird relationship with that I've had to develop with God, and only the program has given me some kind of guideline that doesn't feel shaming, torturous, damning. I mean, I could go, the list goes on and on. And everyone in the rooms shares that there's this loving God out there, and or higher power, because God to me is a blanket term for the mystery, right? And so, and then you find people in the rooms that don't behave right. And so it gets confusing all again. And one of the things that learned recently through therapy, because why be a one-time winner? You got to be a double winner. Why one program when you can go to two? um, I found in therapy and talking to my therapist, he said, I know, but maybe that intuition that you're feeling isn't, oh, hey, he's looking at me. Maybe I should go investigate that. Maybe it's, hey, danger, stay away. And I've had to recalibrate what my intuition is, and get to know myself differently, better. And by peeling away the layers and doing the steps in the program, I've been able to unravel some of those misgivings and those misunderstandings, and try to realign myself to where I can read my intuition a little bit better, because intuitively, I have no clue by default. I'm just completely out of control at all times in how I was raised and trained. Now, if I can get back, when I have gotten back to the basic and I've read my instinct from the get go of, ooh, that doesn't feel good, I shouldn't do this. And I pause and I take a minute before I take the next step, I usually am okay. But when I do that knee jerk reaction and I say, fuck it, and I go, it's always bad news.
well, and you mentioned it, so I'm gonna before we kind of get into kind of what it was like, because you mentioned pause. I know pause is a big thing in your life. How does that work, like in actual practice?
Something as simple as making a purchase. Right. Okay. There's your daily needs. No big deal. You go and buy your hair products or food products or whatever they are. But the big products, the big things, the big choices, or trips and what have you. But like if you're going to buy a car, call a sponsor, call a friend, call a financial advisor, talk to people before you make that big commitment. And that's what I mean by pause, is like you stop before you just pull the trigger. You stop, you have a couple of conversations, you pray about it. Hey, if the color's not there when you get back to the store, maybe you weren't supposed to buy it. And I have found that when I do pause, then maybe I'm not overspending and not overcommitting, not putting myself in a financial stress, which I tend to do if I leave it to my own devices and go with that fuck it mode instead of the pause mode.
No, I love that you said that, because because of recovery and all that. I was taught the 24-hour rule, and it's, we're 24-hour program, but like before I do anything, if as long as I'm spiritually fit, let me just say that, or I'm, kind of in the right place, I can pause for like 24 hours and things look totally different the next day. The longer we can pause, the more different I think things might look. Maybe,
Very
Um,
true. Very true.
so kind of going back to kind of when you were younger, and do you remember like the first time you felt the effects of like drugs or alcohol?
Yeah, I was 12 years old, staying at a sleepover with a bunch of girlfriends, and somebody busted out Jack Daniels and grape juice. And it was like even today, like that just sounds like a bad idea. But and I think I was exposed to drinking long before that, but like the grandparents giving, not my grandparents, but people giving young children drinks of beer, or go get me a beer and you have a sip on the way to the sofa to hand your dad a beer or something like that. But the really having a drink on my own, by my own choice, and waking up. I mean, I'm 12 years old and I wake up in a puddle of vomit. Now, all I remember is the bottle of Jack Daniels and the grape juice, and that was it. That was the end of the night. I don't remember anything else. And so I don't know if I had one drink or 14 drinks, but from the get go, I was a blackout drunk and had no clue. Just didn't know how I got there, just happened. And didn't investigate why, how, when, or where. Didn't ask any questions. I found out nobody else had a problem with what happened that night. So why am I going to complain?
Yeah, I mean it, and I guess for lack of a better term, it was somewhat normalized in your life, from how you grew up. I would assume with like your parents being in addiction, and you kind of saw it, and I think you either go one of two ways. It seems like you either go, I'm not going to ever do that, or I'm going to be just like that, or
Well,
I
one
don't
of the
know.
things I didn't really recognize until I was much older is that I blamed all of my childhood problems or experiences, or the bad relationships on the drug use. I didn't recognize alcohol as the enemy, because alcohol was so normalized in and around me. There was no warning about what alcohol could do to your life and how it could ruin your life. No one ever talked about that. The bums on the street, they were drug addicts. In my mind, they were missing teeth, their face was messed up, they had nothing. I still had things. So there was this in my, all the way through till I was like, I mean, till I got sober. I just had this idea that drugs were way worse than alcohol, and maybe they would have been for me, but I never touched coke or meth or any of those things. I mean, I got high a couple of times, meaning smoking marijuana. And okay, let me correct myself. I got high a lot in different time periods of my life. And I would like go on benders with whatever that was. Like if my cousin was in town the whole weekend, we would do that instead of drinking. But I wouldn't drink when I would do that. So there was, but it wasn't a norm. It wasn't a norm. It slowed me down, made me paranoid. I didn't exactly like the effect. It was mind altering enough to where I would do it and I could get on with it. But it was, if I had a preference, it was always alcohol.
It's funny if you said I was the same with marijuana, whatever. I never liked it. It was never. I got the same way. I got paranoid. I was like, this is crazy, or I just went to sleep, and so I used cocaine to manage my alcohol. That
I
was
didn't
kind
learn that
of
lesson. Nobody told me that lesson. Like, oh my God, I found out. Listen, I was standing in a bathroom at an AA meeting, and getting ready to walk out, and another girl starts to walk out with me. And she goes, oh, thank God for Coke. And she's pulling up her pants because her pants are too big. And I thought, oh shit, good thing I didn't know that when I was out there. I would have done Coke just to stay skinny. And then I heard in the rooms, the Coke supplemented the drink, like it allowed you to drink more. Nobody told me anything about those. Like I didn't get all the secret telltales on that. And if, man, I would have been right on board with that Coke and drinking. I mean, the one thing I knew, I absolute hands down, never going to do meth. Never going to do math. I was scared to death to lose my teeth. I already had a problem with acne. And I had this image in my mind of what meth addicts look like. I have no idea what that really means at the end of the day because I became everything a meth addict is. I'm a mother who loses her children when she drinks. I only thought meth addicts would and could do that. I didn't understand that it was just the addiction. It's not necessarily the drug, the type of drug, or the exact drug. It's the addiction.
Yeah, it always it I don't know if it was a secret, Genevieve. I don't mean like it was some. I don't even know how I discovered it, other than I had friends that were doing it, and then I was like, man, I can drink all night doing this craziness, and it 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 is not. It is not. It was not any better. I destroyed my life just as much as I'm sure you did. You know, it was.
Hey, I didn't
It,
need any other additives, so I
yeah,
guess we're good.
there you go. That's it. You know, I heard a guy say that. I said, what was your drug of choice?" He's like, "Well, what do you got?"
I think at the end of the day, that would have been it. Like if I would have kept going, I would have found anything and everything else because the alcohol was changing. It was changing. It was really not working any longer. Like I really had to be completely drunk out of my mind for my head to shut up or just quiet down. It wasn't even shutting up anymore. I just needed it to quiet down. And when the loud voices were so loud that I couldn't settle them with a drink, I started to notice that there was a problem. But
What?
I mean, we're the last to know, right?
Yeah, well, we absolutely, yeah, absolutely, we are. You know, and it never have a problem until it's a problem. You know, it's.
Exactly.
Um, what were some of the biggest lies you told yourself? Kind of looking back, do you?
I don't know. I'm your typical inferiority ego complex person. You know, I walk in a room, I'm too much, I'm too little, all the things. I had a complete misunderstanding of what love looked like. I had a complete misunderstanding of what success looked like. Um, I thought I was putting my children first, except for, I went to the store to pick up the alcohol before I picked up the kids from school. Like that I always squeezed it in somehow. And so I think the biggest lie I told myself, the absolute biggest lie is that I had control. Like I had zero knowledge, I had zero control, zero knowledge.
Yeah, and that's. I think we're. My old sponsor used to call it, "We swim upstream in the river of denial." You know,
Absolutely.
and,
Absolutely.
and just have no idea until that happens. So, what? So it obviously progressed pretty fast for you. Is that? Am I? Is that
Well,
fair to say?
no, I don't know. I was like a fairly functioning alcoholic for years. I mean, I don't like saying alcoholic. When I'm out there, I'm a drunk. I'm sorry. I'm Genevieve. I'm an alcoholic. When I'm sober, I want to. I don't know why that makes a difference to me, but when I'm out there, I'm a drunk. And um, so I don't know. In my 20s, I'm have my first son, and then the drinking kind of takes off. And I'm 21, married, husband never home. I'm drinking all the time at night. I'm entertaining myself. I'm taking a load off. I work so hard. I deserve this. This is my vice. All the things. And then I got pregnant with my daughter, and drinking stops while I'm pregnant. And the second I have her, stop nursing, right back on the bottle. I put her on one and I put myself on one. And I was gainfully employed. Everything was going pretty decent, except for the relationship. I burned that to the ground. He wasn't good enough. The grass was always greener on the other side of the fence or somewhere else, not here. Um, and no one really knew. I mean, they all suspected there was a problem, but they didn't really know the depth of the disease that I was experiencing. And I did a good job of, I only need one more. I'm not really drinking that much, but blow people off during the week so they didn't know I was drinking during the week. And then right about 30, I was 30 years old. I'm in my second marriage, a horrific marriage, horrible, horrible, never should have happened. And in that intuition, I'm standing, I'm in the bridal room, if you will, getting ready. And I turned to my dad and I said, I can't do this. And he said, let's go. And I'm like, I can't blow up my life. And so I proceeded with that marriage. And I mean, we we went to hell in a handbasket. Got pregnant for the third time. Um, he's using meth. I'm drinking so much that I can't see what he's doing when he's doing what he's doing, right? Chaos is ensuing, the fighting's happening, physical abuse is happening, and I call the cops. And he'd got rough is a light term, but it was bad. And I called the cops. He left the home, and he turned himself in, and things got really crazy because now I'm alone and I'm in a home that we share, owned by his parents, and it's mucky, it's weird, it's not clean. I can't clean it up. My parents want nothing to do with what's going on because they know this guy's a creep. He threatens anyone and everyone. And I mean, he threatened me if he had a gun, he'd kill me. And so the charges get pressed against him, picked up by the DA and pressed against him and his parents, and he retained top-notch attorney in town. And they get a private investigator to kind of corner me and size me up. And I'm telling you, this guy is 6'9". He's all the intimidating any one person needs to be. I'm 5'2" on a good day. And I can't stop drinking because I don't know what to do. I have nowhere to go. I need out of this, but I can't go. I can't go anywhere. I can't. My hands are tied mentally, right? And so I drop the charges against him. I go before the court and tell the judge, no, that I exaggerated. And I mean, I had the winning card in my hand. But what was said to me is, we'll go to every length and we'll put your children on the stand. And I said, I'm out. I'm out. I can't do it. I'll do anything to protect my children. And so I thought that's what I was doing. And so I dropped all the charges, and nothing really changed. Nothing stopped. And his crazy kept going, and he's using meth like there's no tomorrow. And I'm drinking to no end. And I move in with my parents because we're clearly not getting along and it's not good. And in October of 2007, my brother dies. And he's 29 years old and I'm 31. And drinking took on a whole new level. Like it was like, when they talk about the fourth dimension, like it was a whole new space. And I no longer wanted to be alive. I didn't understand my life at all. Here I am on a second marriage. 3 children were displaced. I'm out of a job now. I've been kindly released from my responsibilities because I couldn't show up on time or even at all. And I had nowhere to go, nothing. And I knew that this was the end, but I didn't know what that meant. I just knew it was the end. It was the end of the road. And I couldn't not drink though, because now when I'm sober, I'm crying all the time. I'm crying that I'm a victim, of abuse of all kinds, the child abuse, the adult abuse, the what have you, and my brother's death. And I no longer understood what my identity was. And so New Year's Eve 2007, like going into the eve of 2008, I end up in a meeting at 106 Lincoln in Bakersfield. And it's the last house on the block, like 100%. It physically is the last house on the block. It sits in between two bars. There's two bars within 25 yards or more, but not far. And I'm sitting on the back bench as far away from the speaker as I possibly can. And I am watching this beautiful, magnificent woman share about how wonderful her life is. And the room is exploding with joy. And people are coming in and out of the doors. And I'm shaking like a leaf. I can barely breathe without wanting to vomit. Um, and by the stroke of midnight, I'm on the floor having a seizure. And no, I know no one and nobody knows me. My mom's best friend walks in the door as this is happening. They're AA friendly. And I get wheeled out on a gurney and taken to the hospital. And there's these little God shots along the way. Like, first of all, my mom's best friend shouldn't have been there that night at that time. I mean, she could have been in that room at any given point, but not that night at that time. But she showed up. So somebody knew who I was, first and last name. They knew who to get a hold of. And so they got a hold of my mom. So that was one God shot that I found probably 5 years sober. I looked back and realized that. But then at the hospital, there's this nurse hovering over me, and I recognize it's my dead brother's girlfriend's mother. And I just instantly start crying. I'm like coming out of this seizure, and I'm seeing a familiar face instead of it being an unfamiliar face, unfamiliar territory, unfamiliar all the things. And I don't wake up in this state of fear. I feel comforted. And she and the doctor tell me, Genevieve, we don't know what drink's going to kill you, but if you can continue to drink, a drink will kill you. And that didn't quite make sense to me. I didn't understand. I hadn't been drinking. I'm sober now. I mean, a whole, 12 hours maybe, but for what the, how come they don't put that on the bottle? As a result of excessive drinking, quitting, impromptu, you might seize up and die, had no clue. So I don't know if that's oblivious, naive, dumb blonde. I don't care. I just didn't know. And so that was the beginning of my sobriety. And then by day 28, I'm drunk because now I'm going through a divorce and a custody battle. And he goes into the courtroom with a packet, 3 inches thick, talking about what a drug addict I am and how my children need to be removed from my care. And man, I fought that tooth and nail. I'm not a drug addict. I don't do meth. And it called me out as a meth addict. And it was all the things that I never wanted to be. But it didn't matter. Because what happens when I drink, when I put alcohol in my system, I give the courts authority to decide where my children live. I didn't know that then, but I do know that shit now. I do know that now. And so on day 28, when they removed my son based on the information they were given, I went out and drank. And in a relapse, I proved all the lies true and began speaking victimese on the regular and showed up to court, went to drug test. I had 2 dirty alcohol tests that he didn't know about. It took about a month for those to come through. So I thought I was cleared. And then my attorney went after the drug test and they came back dirty. And then so, and we just went down this wild rabbit hole of a custody battle where nobody was winning. I mean, the kids were suffering. I'm suffering. Fathers are suffering. I mean, it money. Oh my God, the endless amounts of money. Just insanity. And for 2 years, I was on visitations with my children. My mom was able to monitor those visitations, but those were court ordered. We got phone calls court ordered because in between the visits, people would not answer the phone, and I called daily the kids, and it was crazy. It was absolute mayhem. It was no fun. And if ever a drink comes to mind, I go back to the deepest, darkest point of my sobriety. And that was when I was standing on the bluffs here in Bakersfield. And I was looking out over the bluffs and I'm whining and crying about being a mother and not having my children. And it struck me that was my first Mother's Day without my kids, but I was fighting for them in court. But it was my mother's first Mother's Day without my brother, whom we would never see again. And there was no fight, there was no challenge. And it hit me that my selfish, self-seeking, self-centeredness got me where I was at. And the only way to get out was to actually kind of bank on those things. Selfishly bank on the fact that I needed and wanted my children in my life. And so I fought hard. I fought with everything I had. I originally came in knowing I needed to solve a problem and get sober. I just didn't know what that meant and how, if that was lifelong, right? And then after the custody battle ended, I'm 5 years into sobriety. Sobriety is good. The blessings are abundant. I have friends, I have a career, I have an education. I mean, I could just go on and on. Um, I have wonderful relationships with my adult children now, all three. One's in college, one's raising his two kids, and the other is starting her career. And I don't have to fight for those relationships because they're there. They're ready and they're present. And I can only say that it's due to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And thank God, between alcohol and the bad choices I make that I have made, that those sparks in my life have not dimmed out.
Well, I was thinking, kind of going back to how did you know where to go? How did you know?
Oh yeah, that's a good story. So my mom's sober.
Okay.
And at the time, she'd been sober 20 something years. And so I knew she went to meetings. And I think that maybe that little like thing in the back of my head, well, if ever this alcohol becomes a problem, I can go get help and get better. Right. So she got sober when I was 15 and became a mom because we were unparented for many years, both my brother and I. I mean, they were there, but they weren't there. So she got sober, and I knew that she was sober. She'd been sober for it must have been 20 years, 15 or 20 years. Anyways, and so I asked her if I told her I needed help, and she said, "You think?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to go to a meeting or something." And she said, "Well, there's a phone book." I don't know if there's people listening and know what a phone book is, but back in the day, we used to have this directory and it had a bunch of phone numbers in it, whatever you needed, whether it was AA, AAA, or a tow truck, or a food, or a phone number for a neighbor. I mean, it had everything under the sun. Anyways, I went and looked up Alcoholics Anonymous in that phone book, and I called central office in Bakersfield. And they directed me to the best meeting in town. It's 106 Lincoln. And they have when they have multiple meetings in at that venue, or at that house. That it's an old firehouse converted into a meeting room, and they have 3 meetings a day. But there's certain meetings that just have the magic in the room, and it's a Wednesday night candlelight or the Sunday morning. In that room, I hear God every single time. Every single time. And I'll tell you, the faces of God changes every single meeting. And that's the magic. And that's why sometimes when we talk about God and that higher power and we try to put an image to it, it's just, that's so complicated to me. It just makes it harder than it needs to be. I mean, to me, the higher power concept makes more sense, but for relatability, I say God. But there's some sort of magical thing that created this earth and us, and makes the world go round. It certainly isn't me. I don't make the sun set or the sunrise. I didn't create the little birds that are zipping around here in the backyard or any of that. Um, and it's that thing that I can tap into that can ease my pain. When I reach outside of self and give away the pain and let the those and that amongst me carry the pain, I can walk easier and lighter.
Yeah, yeah, I like the way you said that. I think it's important too for something that I learned, and it was because I struggled with the whole God concept and that kind of, and you've talked about it beautifully. But in and it says in the 12 steps that we will have a spiritual experience, and then you read in the back of the big book if you're in that program, and it says a spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used in this book, and it just means a psychic change just enough so basically I don't have to drink today. I butchered that totally, but the general idea is that spiritual awakening, spiritual concept is a psychic change. I changed the way
That
my
psychic
attitude and
change.
outlook. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what was the point in time? Like I don't know. I couldn't tell you the date and I couldn't tell you the time on the clock. But I looked up and it dawned on me that I hadn't had a desire to drink in a long time. And that to me is the psychic change or a part of that. That's a good descriptor for people who don't quite understand what that means. But it's when I mean my whole life was revolved around the drink. And then suddenly I'm standing there, I'm like, oh God, I haven't thought about a drink in a minute, in a long minute, and that's that psychic change just to start, just to start. And that could be applied to anything, anything. When I went to quit smoking, I threw that in the 12 steps and did the 12 steps on my smoking and how it was unmanageable. And I had zero control. And I just, clipped on that ball and chain. And once I started smoking, that was it. That was just another piece of my life. And when I worked the 12 steps on it, oddly, it just like all came together. My grandmother was on life support. She'd never smoked or drank in her life, and she's on breathing machines. And I'm taking breaks in between visiting her to go downstairs and smoke a cigarette. And I'm coming back up in the ICU and I'm smelling my hands and I'm smelling my clothes and I'm smelling my hair. And I'm so repulsed by my behavior and what I'm bringing. Like I'm bringing this toxin into this highly sanitized room and I'm just mucking it up because that's what I do. I just make it all a mess, right? I'm just completely terrorizing this woman as she's hanging on for her dear life. And I had tried the Chantix and I was on my second, I don't know, second round with that. And the day we were burying her, I threw the cigarettes out the window and never looked back. And it just worked between the steps and the and experience that change, that experience in itself, that psychic change. I suddenly no longer had the desire to smoke and it was gone. But you have to put in some work to make that happen. It doesn't just magically disappear. When I after that, back in the let's go back a second. When I relapsed, I was 28 days sober. So I told you I had the seizure. I'm on the road to sobriety. I don't get a sponsor. I just have a big book sitting next to my bed, holding up next to the light, holding a water bottle. That's all it's doing. I'm just rambling on in all the meetings. I'm not listening. I'm taking everybody's inventory. So of course I relapsed when the children's situation came up. And at the end of my relapse, I'm on my knees in my bedroom, begging God to stop the pain, whatever it is. It's got to stop. This is out of control. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. Whatever that means. If that means I die tonight, I wake up tomorrow. I don't care. Whatever I've got to do this, I got to do it. And I woke up the next morning. I went to a treatment center. Um, I had um, zero desire to drink and full authority to drink, which was a strange combination. I didn't recognize any of those feelings or any of that until much later when I looked back and I was doing the steps with my sponsor and we were talking about the spiritual experience and reading the book and talking about the psychic change and where that took place. And I feel as though most of the time it's me looking back to see what happened when I actually recognize the magic in the rooms or the magic in my life. It's not usually in front of me. It's usually behind me. And oddly, I've gotten better of opening my eyes and paying attention to the magic around me. Um, and that's where the hiking comes into play, or gardening, or being a part of nature. Um, I mean, right now I'm talking to you, and in the corner of my eye, I'm watching this hummingbird just zipping around one of the bushes that I planted. And that to me is God. That's magic. I get to be a part of this entire universe, and I don't have to be a disruptor. I can be a contributing member, whether it's planting the plants to feed the um, native animals or birds, or being a part of sobriety and contributing through service work, or just being a good goddamn person or a good mom. I mean, what about that, and I don't even have to be. A girlfriend of mine always says, I just want to be a decent person. And she's probably one of the most fantastic people I've ever met. Like, she's got all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed, but she just wants to be a decent person. If that's the most I have to achieve, good Lord, I think I've landed.
That's a huge deal. It really is a huge deal. And, it's, I always say, there's not as many now, but, especially early on in sobriety. I mean, there were some days the only gift I had to give the world was not drinking. That was it. And now, of course, as we continue on the journey and learn to be less selfish, I guess, and more giving and more willing to help others and more willing to be one with the world and not have to be better or less, or, just to be, as what I say, a worker among workers, and just to
Right.
be one of, is really, considering where I came from, and what you talked about. I mean, that's a hell of an achievement. I think it really is. The something that you made me think of, because it's really important, I think, for people, especially that are maybe out there active drinking and all that. It's a dangerous detox. People don't realize how dangerous detoxing off of alcohol actually is. And it's your experience is absolutely that's kind of a normal for people coming off alcohol. I don't think people always realize that.
I don't think people know. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, I mean, I took all sorts of classes that shoulda, coulda, or it might have been a good idea to talk about alcoholism, but nobody talks about it. I mean, maybe more so now, but back in the day, nobody talked about it. And I was just having that conversation with a friend about being able to share about sobriety. I think it's important. Now, I don't want to blow your cover, but I think it's important to talk about sobriety in a general sense. It shouldn't be there. Was such a taboo around it back in the day. Like, I was super quiet about my sobriety. I didn't want anybody to know. I was just trying to get a job. I just wanted to be employed. And I found that everywhere I everywhere I worked, somebody there had a connection to some sober person. And so it wasn't as taboo as I thought. But back to what you were talking about, um, I wish there was more information out there. And that's one of the conversations I've been having with my kids as they venture into this world and, test the waters with alcohol. I've been told countless times I didn't drink like you. And I said, well, no, neither did I until I did. I didn't drink that way from the get go. I mean, from the beginning, it was just this much, and then it was uncontrolled. And where that imaginary line is, I don't know where the hell I crossed it, but I did cross it, you know? And one of the things that I knew at the end is I was drinking because of the physical effects that my body would go through in the detox. It wasn't that I woke up wanting to drink. I just woke up and my body and my mind knew I had to drink. So I did. That was the only thing that took off the shakes. That was the only thing that would get me fully up and running. And which was horrific. I mean, just thinking back, it just makes there was a point at the tail end where I'm taking 2 shots and throwing up 3, you know? And by the fourth shot, okay, now they're staying down. Now I can get moving. Now I can get something done. And that that was psychotic. That was just absolutely everything I thought I never wanted to be. And looking back, just here I am. I was where I didn't want to do meth because I might lose my teeth yet. All the vomiting. Can you imagine what that was doing to my to my gums? Receding gum lines, losing my hair. I weigh 100 and no, at the time I weighed 95 pounds when I got sober. Never did a drug in my life, never did meth, okay, or coke or anything that kept me skinny. Pop makes you fat if you smoke enough, right? So here I am drinking myself quite literally to death. That was my only nutrition whatsoever. And nobody ever, nowhere once did anyone tell me that I can have an alcohol withdrawal seizure. No one. I mean, in fact, it wasn't until I was laying on the in the hospital room in the ER when I was told about a drink will kill you. We don't know which one it is, whether you drink or don't drink, you need help. And that was where I knew when after I relapsed, that I needed to go. Thank God I knew this at that point, that I needed to go to a detox center or somewhere to get help, because I knew if I quit drinking, I could die. And now I had this little mustard seed of hope that there could be life after in sobriety. And that little glimpse of sobriety in that 28 days gave me that little nugget of, well, maybe you do want to live. Maybe you do want to be a mom. Maybe you do want to figure this out and live a long, wonderful life. Maybe you do want to do that. Because I say this all the time, I don't die, right? Like, I don't die drunk. I just have alcohol withdrawal seizures. I burn the house down. I lose the job. I lose the kids, but I live miserably. And that to me right there is 95% of the reason why I stay sober. I'm just going to live a slow, miserable death. This is the absolute easier, softer way. And at the same time, I get some promises and some bonuses on this end of the deal. And all I have to do is not drink alcohol. I mean, really, essentially, I mean, because the rest of it all falls into play eventually if you do the work and you're doing the stuff.
100%. And I best way I ever heard it put, was told that, when I was drinking and, I was willing to give up everything that had any meaning to me, family, friends, my daughter, jobs, whatever. I would give it. I was giving it all up for that one thing. When I come into recovery, they say you can give up that one thing and you can have everything, and that's kind of a beautiful thing. I think that's, and you're proof of that. So that's really cool. Something that you mentioned when you sent me some info. She sent me some info ahead of time, guys. So I always ask for it. So it's but you talk about recovery first, everything else second, which is a really cool kind of way to live. What does that kind of look like in like your daily life?
Okay, so just to tell you, I have bluebirds in my backyard and they're coming and asking for peanuts. So I'm going to throw them out here. I give them unsalted peanuts, and one just popped over. If you saw me look over and smile. Anyways, what does that look like? Meetings. I go to meetings regularly. I have a sponsor. I stay in connection with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't stray too far. I've had some glimpses of, getting too far away from the herd. That gets dangerous and uncomfortable. I've been right in the middle of the herd and gotten a little bit crazy and a little shook up. But at the end of the day, I have to wake up, by putting my feet on the ground and trying to center myself before I start the day and ask for the willingness to be of service and to be there for others. Um, I am very unwell. When I started in the program, I was too busy fighting with for my kids, and that was my excuse to not get in deep with being a sponsor. I had trouble with splitting up my time, and if my kids were with me, I wasn't taking calls, and I would go to meetings and take my kids, but that was hard for me early on. But what I found out is I was 10 years sober and I needed a sponsee. Couldn't find one, and then they found me. And it worked out, and it's worked out well. But what I do is I don't not call. I don't not answer the phone. When I'm asked to be of service, I am of service, unless I am, pre I already have a commitment. Like if I already have something else going on, then I'll let you know what that is, and then I might say no, I can't. Just like with scheduling this, I mean, so this week I'm the chair of our roundup, not just this week, for the last 6 months. And what that is it's an AA conference, and that's this weekend. And I am telling you, it's been absolutely crazy. My whole entire life, it feels like, for the last 6 months has been about planning this conference. And I have a committee, and I have these people that I should utilize and delegate and let them be of service instead of hogging up all of the nuggets of service work. And so I've had to learn to allow others to do the thing. And so, what does putting sobriety first mean? It means putting other people first. It means putting God first. It means showing up and being in the rooms. It's going to your home meeting, doing the steps, working with others. It's all the things. I mean, when my kids don't know where I am, they call my mom and she'll tell them where I'm. She knows what meetings. She lives in Oklahoma now, and I'm in California, and she could tell you what night I'm going to a meeting, what morning I'm at what meeting. She could tell you who my sponsees' names are. She knows my sponsor's name. I mean, there's just this. My life, it's so incorporated. I mean, I got in connection with you through a friend of a program who used to live here and moved there. I mean, and here's the weird fucking thing. So I have never been of service to any one other person. Like, I've always been all about me from the get-go, right? And I was taught that at a young age. To survive, you must feed yourself. And so Randy calls me, and I'm sitting at an event, and I'm volunteering time because at work it's a whole thing. So I'm volunteering that day, and he's voluntolding, if you will, me for another thing. And he goes, "How do you feel about doing that?" And I'm like, "Well, since I'm in the mood for service work, let's go." But these are the things you do. This is what you do. You participate in your own sobriety.
Yep.
It was years in sobriety before I heard about another woman losing her children as a result of drinking. Years. And I'm thinking, how is it? How is that even possible? I can't be the only one. I mean, I uniquely want to be the only one, so I can claim to be the only one, but that is not a tagline I want. Hi, I'm Genevieve. I lost my kids. I did gain them back, by the way. I got everything back.
And that's what happens. We get everything back. We usually if we do that, we do the part. We do our part. But yeah, that it is cool. So shout out to Randy for connecting us. Randy's a cool guy, and shout out to you for doing the roundup. My wife and I are going to the roundup in Tennessee. It's called the Appalachian Roundup. We've been wanting to go for years, and it's this weekend. So there must be roundup weekend.
It must be.
Yeah. So
hey, participate in all the things. Like, have you never been?
No, this is my first roundup. So yeah, I'm excited to go.
Any conferences of any kind, or
yeah. Been to.
Okay.
We actually do. We do a men's retreat that we started. It's called the Easy Does It Men's Retreat. We do that every October here in Tennessee, which is great. But yeah, we've been to been to Founders Day. That was cool. Founders Day is
Oh, we need to
awesome.
do that. We need to
Yeah.
do that.
If you ever
We
get a
did go to
chance,
the
look at it.
international conference. Sorry to overspeak you. Went to
No.
the international conference this last year in Canada, and oh my God, that was amazing. I've never seen that many people all in one space that I'm in a presence at, I'm attendant to, and we're all praying the same prayer. And I think 87 different languages in the room. I mean, probably more. I'm throwing out a number, but there were so many people speaking so many different languages, all there for the sole purposes of staying sober and to help another alcoholic. That was the only reason. I mean, we did go on a seaplane ride. We did shop a little bit. We didn't spend any money. We did venture out a little bit and try new food and do different things, try new restaurants and stuff, and hung out with friends. And we didn't attend every meeting, but we tried to take it all in. And I am telling you, it was the most fantastic experience. Aside from one other experience I had in sobriety that I never ever would have banked on. I never thought that that would be as fulfilling as it was. But we travel a lot, and so we were in South Carolina, and we were looking for a meeting, and we had a jam-packed week actually going on. And so we wanted to try a meeting in, I think we were in Savannah, and we're getting up at the crack of dawn. It's still dark out. We have no idea where we are. We're just going by, the Google Maps. And all of us, as we're walking towards this building where we think it is, we start seeing a couple of different people walking along with us. And there's a guy over there, and there's a girl over there, and then there's a couple over there. And this is not a time for people to be just wandering the streets. There's not shit going on. And I look over and I see a guy with a book, you know, he's got the book. And I mean, it's recognizable in its truest form, it's recognizable. And I look over at another guy, and my boyfriend says to him, he said, "Hey, are you heading to the meeting?" And he goes, "Yeah." And it was some 6 a.m. meeting back east. And it was just watching us wandering in the dark to this one door in this building. And we're all just kind of cruising along like nothing's happening. And it was absolute magic, absolute magic. I don't even know what they said in the meeting. The best part of that meeting was the walk into the room, the walking into the building, finding our way in the dark, finding the door with the light on, and the room was lit with smiling faces. The coffee's going, people are zipping around, setting everything, and there was nothing going on outside of that room. And it just looked like this, random door, and you walk through, and that's where the magic is, right? It was fantastic.
That's pretty cool. Look for the blue books and the coffee cups and the cigarettes, and you
And the
will find a
cigarettes, yeah.
meeting.
You know what? I'm not seeing the cigarette smoking out here as much as we used to, but it's still here. It's not as prevalent, but it's still here.
Not as much. Probably got to look more for vaping at this point.
Yeah, yeah. Very
uh,
true.
well, I really appreciate you sharing your story. I mean, it's really powerful, and I think, like you said, I mean, your story is so relatable to a lot of people, I think, that may not have heard somebody come through some of the experiences you've come through, and come to the other side, and I think it's really cool that your mom is sober and she knows that's really powerful in its own right.
It makes a huge difference. Knowing someone in sobriety, and I would say for people, I'm sure it's challenging when you walk into a room for the first time of Alcoholics Anonymous and you know nobody. I guarantee I understand 100%. It's uncomfortable, it's awkward, and you feel displaced. But my mom did not go to that meeting with me. I went by myself. And so I got to have that experience, and it was all mine, including sitting on the floor flopping around like a fish, foaming out the mouth, and all the things. Boy, those alcohol withdrawal seizures are fun.
I, I, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. So,
Hey, Joe, thank you for having me do this. I
yeah,
appreciate it. Did you have
no,
any more questions that
I,
maybe I didn't answer?
well, I just was going to ask you, is there anything you wanted to talk about that we haven't?
One of the things that I would like to remind people is that on page 88, it talks about how we are indisciplined. And the one way to become disciplined is found on page 83 through 88. And if you do the program as suggested, being able to have that daily reprieve is achievable. It doesn't have to look like somebody else's program. You don't have to meditate the way somebody else meditates. You don't have to pray the way somebody else prays. And you don't have to find a God that somebody else's God, but find something outside of yourself that you can reach to and look up to and hand over all of your problems. Find that pause button. You don't even have to be agitated, but find the pause button. Take that pause before you take a drink. Take that pause before you spend that money. Take that pause before you say no. And think of the unintended consequences. Because if had you told me how much my alcoholism was going to cost me, or how much my drinking was going to cost me, and if they would have been able to put a dollar sign on it and pictures of my 3 children next to it, that warning label would have been pretty useful.
It might not have worked, but it would have been helpful. I know.
It
I know.
they could have said, yeah, but we told you.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I agree. Man, thank you so much, Genevieve, for sharing your story, sharing your experience, your strength, your hope. It really means a lot. Um, but I cannot let you go, my friend, without doing our rapid fire questions. So,
Okay,
are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. What is your favorite recovery slogan?
Let go, like God.
What is your least favorite recovery slogan?
Think, think, think.
If What do you think is your sobriety superpower?
Wow. The ability to listen.
Hmm.
I had no listening mechanisms of any kind before.
If you could say one thing to your former self, what would it be?
Don't do it. Don't do it. It. Oh, I would say a lot, but one thing, yeah, don't do it. Trust your intuition. It's telling the truth.
What song do you play to lift your spirits when you need a boost?
Oh, wow. Anything Rolling Stones, anything Post Malone. I'm all over the map. I'm not just one genre. The Cars. There's no one song. There's that. There's no one song. I absolutely am obsessed with music. We just went to a symphony this last weekend. I mean, I'll go to any concert anywhere. I think we're going to go to a Iron Maiden concert. I don't know. I know nothing about that. I'll be honest. I know nothing about Iron Maiden, but I could tell you all about Blake Shelton and all sorts of other bands and groups and people. But anyways,
That's all you literally was just talking about Iron Maiden with my wife. I'm not a big Iron Maiden fan, and she was
oh
so.
shoot, you guys are in the land of Blackberry Smoke.
Yep.
Now they're one of my favorites. So do me a favor, go to the shed, listen to them live, and tell me if they're good.
All
I
right,
saw
that's a
them in
deal.
person here several times. So
That's a deal. That's a deal. If you could grant yourself one wish to help with your recovery, what would it be?
one wish for recovery or in recovery. Do better at applying these principles in all of your affairs.
What step do you love the most?
Ew. I feel like they're a whole. They're a whole. They're nothing. None of them work without the other. There's magic in step 4, unforeseen. Like, right, most people doing step 4 for the first time, it's just pure agony. Step 5, telling on myself. Least favorite but best rewards right there is like once you get it off your chest, you feel 100% better. Step 9, the amends is amazing. Yeah, I don't have one. And then 12, I mean, come on. There is so much in them. Yeah, the steps, not just one.
Well, I can't ask you the next one. Good, you already said it, but it was, what step do you love the least?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a least. At the end of the day, there's not a least. Believe me, nobody likes to make amends for the first time. Now it's different. I'm not making amends for stuff that it really is horrific and horrible. But the first time doing the amends that was daunting. That was really uncomfortable the first time. Was it rewarding? Absolutely. Do I do it now on the regular? Anytime I need to, I'm in.
What is one of your favorite movies?
Pulp Fiction.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it.
And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You made it. I knew you would make it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Genevieve. I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for the rest of you out there, if this episode meant something to you, please share it with one person who needs hope today. A new episode of The Cup of Joe Show drops every Thursday at noon. You can listen anytime at thecupofjoeshow.net or on any of your favorite podcast apps, Podbean, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and more. Just search for The Cup of Joe Show. Don't forget the "the." And if you're looking for daily encouragement in your recovery journey, subscribe to our friends at thedailyponderables.com, delivering inspiration to your inbox every morning. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share because someone out there needs to hear this today. Have a good day, everybody.
It's just a laid-back vibe, baby.
We hope you enjoyed today's Experience, Strength, and Hope. We are so grateful you decided to join us. Please share this episode with someone who might need it. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, no matter where you are in your recovery journey, you are not alone. Reach up and reach out to someone. Please do not suffer in silence. Until next time, let's take it 1 minute, 1 hour, and 1 day at a time. Thanks for listening to The Cup of Joe Show.